50,000 years ago, being cast out of your tribe wasn't a punishment. It was a death sentence. Not immediate. Not dramatic. Just slow and certain. No fire. No shelter. No one to watch your back when the predators came after dark. A single human alone on the Pleistocene had a life expectancy measured in days. Everyone in the tribe knew this. The person being cast out knew it too. And yet it still happened. Over and over, across every human culture that has ever existed, in every corner of the world. The group deciding that one of its own had to go. Not to prison. Not to another village. Into the open. Into the dark. Into everything the fire was keeping away. This is one of the oldest human stories there is. And the reason it still lives in your body today is stranger than you'd expect. To understand what exclusion actually meant 50,000 years ago, you have to understand what the group actually was. Hunter-gatherer bands were small. 20 to 50 people. That was your entire world. Not your city. Not your neighborhood. Not your school. 20 to 50 people moving across a landscape that was actively trying to kill them. Against the predators and the temperatures and the infections and the famines of the Pleistocene, a single human was almost nothing. Small, slow, no claws, no venom, no thick hide. Human eyes were terrible in the dark compared to the things that hunted at night. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, all of them could see just fine. But a group of humans was something different entirely. A group could coordinate a hunt. Drive animals toward a cliff edge, surround prey too large for any individual to take down alone. A group could share heat through winter nights, bodies pressed together against temperatures that would kill a person sleeping alone. A group could share information, where the water was, where the predators were denning, which plants were ready and which would kill you. The fire at the center of the camp created a circle of safety roughly 30 feet across. Inside that circle, predators wouldn't come. Outside it, you were on your own. To be inside the circle was to survive. To be pushed outside it was something else entirely. So how did it happen? Who decided? And what did someone have to do to make the group decide they were done with them? Anthropologist Christopher Bohm spent decades studying hunter-gatherer societies, groups still living close to the original human way of life. What he found was that these bands were obsessively, deliberately egalitarian. They could not afford to have one person accumulate too much power, hoard too many resources, or place their own survival above the group's. In a band of 50 people, one domineering or selfish individual could destroy everyone's chances. So the group developed a system, and it didn't start with banishment. It started with something much gentler. Teasing. If someone started behaving in ways that threatened the group, bragging after a hunt, taking more than their share, refusing to contribute, trying to dominate others, the group would begin to mock them. Not cruelly at first. Specifically. Pointed humor aimed precisely at the behavior causing problems. A signal that everyone could hear. This is not how we do things here. Most of the time, that was enough. Humans are extraordinarily sensitive to social signals. The teasing landed and the behavior changed. But if it didn't, the teasing became something harder. Ridicule. More public. More sustained. The entire group participating. The message getting louder. If that still didn't work, the group moved to shunning. Silence. No one speaking to the person directly. No one including them in plans or activities or conversations. A preview, deliberate and unmistakable, of what complete exclusion would feel like. And only after all of that, if the person still hadn't adjusted, the band would ostracize them. Cast them out entirely. The escalation was deliberate. The group gave every warning it could before the final step, because everyone understood what the final step actually meant. What happened to the person cast out depended entirely on circumstance. Some survived. If the season was right, if the person was skilled enough, if they found another band willing to take them in. Occasionally two bands lived close enough that a rejected member could be absorbed. But this was rare and never guaranteed. Other groups had their own dynamics, their own hierarchies, their own limits on how many mouths they could feed. A stranger arriving alone, with no social capital and no established relationships, was not always welcomed. Most of the time, the outcome was what everyone already knew it would be. Alone at night, without fire, the sounds of the dark became something different. Every crack of a branch, every shift in the undergrowth. In groups, humans had survived precisely because they could watch multiple directions simultaneously. One person awake while others slept. One person scanning left while another scanned right. Alone, you watched one direction and left everything else unguarded. The Pleistocene didn't give you long to think about what you'd done. Thousands of years later, when humans had built cities and written laws and created civilizations complex enough to require governance, they formalized this ancient instinct into an institution. In 508 BC, the city of Athens invented a process they called ostracism. Citizens gathered in the marketplace. Each one scratched a name onto a shard of broken pottery. These shards were called ostraca. That is literally where the word ostracism comes from, a piece of pottery with someone's name scratched into it. If your name appeared on more than 6,000 shards, you had 10 days to leave the city. Not for a crime. No trial. No charges brought. No evidence required. Just the collective decision of the group that you had become a problem. The elegance of the system was deliberate. It wasn't meant to destroy the person. It wasn't permanent exile. It was 10 years. Your property stayed yours. Your family stayed home. You came back when the decade was done, rights intact, free to resume your life. The Athenians understood something the hunter-gatherers had always known intuitively. Banishment didn't need to be permanent to be effective. The threat of exclusion was powerful enough on its own. There is a story from 482 BC that captures this better than any other. A man named Aristeides had earned a reputation across Athens for exceptional fairness. His fellow citizens called him Aristeides the Just. During an ostracism vote, an illiterate citizen approached a stranger and asked him to write a name on his pottery shard. The stranger asked who he wanted removed. The citizen said Aristeides. The stranger asked what Aristeides had done to him. The citizen said nothing. He had never even met the man. It just irritated him to hear everyone calling him the Just. Who does he think he is? The stranger wrote the name down. Then handed the shard back. The stranger was Aristeides himself. He wrote his own name. Then left the city for 10 years without complaint. The group had spoken. And somewhere in his biology, built from 50,000 years of exactly this, he understood what that meant. Here is what makes all of this strange. The same brain that once faced actual death from exclusion is the brain you are using right now. In the early 2000s, a neuroscientist named Naomi Eisenberger designed a study to measure what exclusion does to the human brain. Participants played a simple computer ball-tossing game with what they believed were two other players. For a few minutes the ball moved between all three. Then the other two stopped throwing it to the participant. That was it. A computer game. A ball that stopped coming. When researchers scanned the excluded participants' brains, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex had activated. The exact same region that processes physical pain. The same one that fires when you break a bone or burn your hand. It fired because someone stopped throwing a virtual ball. John Cacioppo spent decades studying what prolonged social isolation does to the human body. What he found was not what most people expected. Loneliness doesn't just hurt your feelings. It restructures your biology. Elevated cortisol. Increased inflammation. Immune systems permanently braced for threat. Sleep that degrades even in a quiet room. He called this the loneliness cascade. The body reads social disconnection as danger and shifts every system toward survival mode. Because 50,000 years ago, social disconnection was danger. The body learned this lesson so completely that it never forgot. And here is the part that should sit with you. Social pain doesn't just hurt the same as physical pain. It lingers in a way physical pain often doesn't. A sprained ankle heals. But the memory of the moment someone looked right through you at a party, or chose someone else without explanation, or simply stopped throwing the ball, that can stay sharp for years. Decades. Replayed with a clarity that fades from ordinary memory. This is not weakness. This is threat tracking. The same system that kept your ancestors alive by making them remember exactly who had turned on them and why. The problem is this system was designed for a world of 50 people. You are living in a world of 8 billion. The missed text message. The unanswered email. The conversation that goes quiet. Your brain treats every one of them with the urgency of something that once meant dying alone in the dark. It cannot tell the difference. It was never built to. 50,000 years of learning one lesson will do that. The group is everything. And somewhere in your chest, in the place that still lights up when the ball stops coming, you already know exactly what that feels like.